Hi everyone, it's Jules by Jude here. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do resin. And we're going to make some coasters. So, all this stuff that you see on my table, I'm out on the kitchen table today because it takes a lot of space for me to do my resin. I have to have a lot of room, and as you can see, there's a lot of wax paper on the table, a lot of coverage there, gloves, we've got stone, we've got molds. Up there at the top of the screen we have some alcohol. Oh, there's a pyramid. We're going to do that, but not today. Anyhow, we've got the resin up there, alcohol, toothpicks. We've got a lot of different tools that we're going to need to talk about and a lot of different things we're going to do. So, let's get started. I have a nice set here of 4 coasters, and I have the molds, which you'll see in a moment. And there's going to be a lot of cut and splicing in this video because, you know, you're not going to want to see me get up and go to the microwave to heat the water or something like that. So I'll tell you exactly what's going on, and hopefully we can get through this together, as we always do. Alright, I like this coaster a lot. Now I'm going to tell you why. I mean, there's a lot of different molds for coasters. And we have been using these like crazy. These are up for sale. This is our regular rock that I got at Joann Fabrics. And this is exactly what it looks like when I go to pour this into the resin. And you will see that shortly. It comes out, in my opinion, very beautifully. Now, at the current moment, I'm using this. It's called Rockstar. I get it on Amazon. Okay? It's 2-part epoxy. Okay? The red is the hardener. And that's number 1, and step number 2 is your resin, okay? It's equal parts. So I'm going to try to work this like as if you've never done it before. I'm going to try my best. If I forget something and you want to ask a question, go ahead. If you're in the club or a student of mine, just give me just tell me. Just give me a call and I'll let you know. Or you can tell me what I forgot or what I need to do too. So, works both ways. I was getting ready to tell you why I really like this mold. One, it's large, and nowadays everybody has these really, I call them ginormous carrying cups and stuff, and there's never a big enough space for them. So this is that. You know, this has been tested with that, and my husband uses his big coffee cup. I use my sodas and my big giant monster. It's great. Now, as far as sweating, it has this little lip on it. Oh, I don't know if you can see that or not. I should probably use this one because you might be able to see this a little bit better. So it has a little lip on it. And I'll probably try to get a close-up view for you later on. But these guys came out great. I really love this. I like this resin. One thing to note, if you do go with this resin, it's very quick drying. It sets very quickly. And I kind of like that, but you're limited. So it does come with instructions, and I want you to know that follow those instructions for the resin, okay? That's important. Now, what I do is I have this little bowl here, and this is how I mix this resin, and this is what works for me. It's important to say that because there's so many videos out there. Some contradict themselves if they say you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. Find what works for you. Test them all out. Some say don't use a lighter, some use a blower. I have both, and sometimes the lighter is just as easier. But this does, I have found, help me with the bubbles and mixing of the resin, and that's because this water is warm. Okay, it's not hot. I can stick my finger in it and not burn it off. Okay, so it's nice and warm, and it's going to keep my resin warm while I'm stirring it. Okay, so I want a good 4 ounces, and I think I might get through 2 molds with that. All right, so step 1 is my hardener, and it's equal parts, so I want to measure that out. Okay, now it's also important to note that once I get this resin all over my fingers, I take them off and I get new gloves. So I go through maybe 3 sets of gloves, 4 sets of gloves during this whole process. Maybe on a good day it's 4. I'm sorry, on a good day it's like 2, on a bad day it's like 4. So make sure you have plenty of gloves, or you're going to have nice sticky fingers. Now I want to measure this out before I put my cup in the water. Okay, now I lean over so I can make sure that I'm as precise as possible. Now that's a good 2 ounces there, and that is my hardener. I know that because it says hardener and it's usually a different color. And color coded, kinda. So anyway, the blue matches the red. And all right, I'm just losing my mind here. Let me get this is the epoxy. It's heavier, thicker. Okay, and now I'm gonna do another 2 ounces and see how we go. I know it's like watching paint dry, right? These are fun to do. I mean, if you're looking at this video wondering how it's done and you see how it's done and that's great, you never do anything else. Or if you purchase the products from me made out of the resin, you'll see how I do it. But I'm going to be honest with you. You can do it. You really want to do it, you can do it. Okay. Now, pretty good on 4 ounces there. So it only took me 2 ounces of each. Now I'm going to place my cup in my warm water here, and this is my stirring stick. Now it's important to note that this is going to loosen up. This water that's warm is going to loosen this resin so that it has it mixes better, less time usually, but yeah, this is a process that takes a few minutes. Once you've got this mixed, it's important that this particular Rockstar brand activates very quickly, which means it starts to stiffen quick. And you'll feel the heat from the resin. Now, if you get caught up in this, that's okay. Start over. But if not, you'll know what to expect, especially if you're a beginner, of course. Now, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of stirring is probably the best, but we'll see how it goes. Notice I'm not going real crazy because that's going to cause more bubbles. The water and the warmth of the water usually helps with those bubbles. If you like bubbles, that's fine. If you don't, you need to go slow and stir. Now what I'm using here is actually like a kit. If you go to Michael's, you can get this cup, the sticks, and these brushes as a kit to stir your resin with, okay? And it's great measuring. Now, I'll be honest with you, you can look at these as being disposable items, or you can do a good cleanup job and reuse them. The choice is yours. Just remember, resin is very messy, it's very sticky, and it's very popular nowadays that I've noticed. Okay? I use it a lot in my jewelry, and I do make some jewelry out of it. But I discovered these coasters, and I really like these coasters. And I really like my stones, and it's a good way to incorporate my stones in the resin. Okay, I've taken the resin out of the water, and continued to stir it a little bit more. And I have limited time from this point on, so I'm going to get started and show you how to do this. There are bubbles in there, and I'm hoping I will make sure they're all out of there before it starts to harden too much. But it has a lot of time. Alright, now the most important thing to do here is to start pouring your resin without any stones in there. Okay, I do one at a time. If I don't make it to the second one, I'm good. but I want to concentrate on the one that I'm working on now. All right, now what's happening here, and this is going to be probably very hard for y'all to see because the resin is clear and so is the mold. Okay, so what's going on is this resin is starting to seep down into the crevices here, and that is where the rocks will be as well. I want rocks to be all around my resin sides, and I will have to start pouring them stones in now. I have toothpicks. I don't know if I had mentioned toothpicks, very important part. Okay. Now I take another stick that I have here, and I proceed to start pushing those stones off to the side. I want them, if my resin goes over a little bit, I'm okay. I mean, if it, happens to drip over the side a little bit, because I'm working on a piece of plastic here. And I know that the mold won't stick to it, and I'm not worried about it. I can peel the resin off of it and reuse it. So let's just try not to get too excited about, am I doing it right? Is it, let's just play, have a good time. A lot of times, some of the best mistakes, but some of the worst mistakes are the best art projects. You hear that from plenty of artists, I'm sure. What you're going to eventually want to do is get those stones pushed down there. Now that's going to cause that resin to come up out of the crevices, which is fine. The most important thing is that we get those stones saturated in those crevices with resin. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of air bubbles, and there's a lot of ways to repair resin mistakes, which we will not be getting into in this video, or probably the next, unless it's appropriate, because it takes time just to do a resin repair tutorial. So you see what I'm doing. I'm spreading these stones, and now I'm going to turn. Now, there's a way of telling, and that's in the side here. You have to look down in that side, and you see any voids, try to stick your stones down in there. They might be light stones, so you got to be, vigilant. Make sure those stones are down there in them crevices, because the last thing you want to do is to see a void in your mold. Now it happens, and you can maybe use it for something else, even though I have a couple of coasters that we use that are trial coasters. But because resin is so expensive, I mean it really is. It's affordable, but it's not so affordable that you can afford to make that many mistakes. So anyhow, I just like to joke when I'm working. It makes me feel less nervous. Alright. Now what I want to do is put some more of both in there. Okay? This was cheap. This stuff was cheap. These stones that I got at Joann Fabrics are colorful, especially once they hit this resin. And I really like them. And I want to say like $5 a bag or something, maybe $8, I don't know. But I've got 4, 6, I got maybe 10 already coasters out of one bag. So hey, now if you're making a set and you think a set is for, you make one at a time, or you can get a couple molds. I got 4 molds because I really like this coaster. Let's get that, let's make that understood. I bought the first 1 or 2 and tried it and said, you know what, I'm going to be making more of these. Now these are silicone, so when you go to demold this, and you will see that if this is a 2-part video, I still will make sure, this is one thing I can tell you is that I've done this before, and it's important to take notes. And this is what I'm going to tell you. Take note that I already know that this is going to be filled with this amount of stones approximately, and at least 2 ounces of resin. So when I get down to the 2 ounces, I know I'm getting close to capacity here, and that if it doesn't start looking proper, I did something wrong and may have to take out some stones, because that is very possible. And then I always leave a little bit, you know, extra in there. And here's a good suggestion, because this is me all day long, and that is, if I have too much resin, what do I do with it? Nobody wants to waste resin, honey. Let me tell you, no one. So what I'm going to do right now is start popping some of these, because I'm going to have to go to my next one before the resin starts to harden. I got to keep that in mind. It's hard when your time, you know, when you only have so much time and you're trying to do a video. So, and if you're like me and you like to talk, so it's hard. I need to do it right as well. I have on what I call my binoculars, where it's just my magnifiers. Okay, I don't have them on my eyes yet, but I will, and that's because I want to make sure I see every part of it. Okay. Now I'm going to let that sit for a second, because I have more business to take care of. And that is the second mold. And what's important again is to do it exactly the same way as I just did this one. Alright? See if I can move this. Now I can move it right now. There's a lot of resin going on here, and it's a sloppy job, and I'm even a sloppy worker. So yes, I'm getting resin everywhere. Boop, look. No big deal. Pretty soon I'll start turning into plastic. Alright, I got that in there pretty good. So let's move on to this. We're going to let that sit. The bubbles are going to come up. There we go. Put ourselves a little small pile there and start pushing towards the edges, because I need to get that in there before the resin starts to harden and this rock star. You just have to know that that's the kind of resin you're working with. There are many different kinds. Casting is for a really deep set, I believe. I don't think this is, no, it's not. Crystal, clear, there's different ones. And there's, they're not always two-part. There's sometimes they're 2 to 1, something like that. And I don't use that too much, I'm going to be honest with you. But I might, you know, it's not that there's I use a lot of UV resin, as you've seen in my last video. Ah, you're pouring over. It didn't go over. Just looked like it was gonna. Next up, when you're looking at this, besides the voids on the side, is the voids in the center. So, what does that mean? That means, as I showed you before, okay, I showed you some of the gaps in the, you know, that's not a mistake. That's done because that's amethyst, and I don't want the whole thing. I didn't have enough amethyst to fill that entire thing up, and I think it looks pretty just the way it is. But with this one, I really wanted to make sure it was more of a solid, where you did not see where the table that you were placing it on, no gaps, no see-throughs. So I was real careful about that with these. And I would say that even with the amethyst, when you don't have enough to fill it the way I'm speaking of, and that is like a solid color all the way through, where it's not, there's no clear spots, that you have to have it, it's even harder to do it that way, because now you're talking about having the right amount of rock span across it, so that it's an equal, it looks equal, instead of, you know, a little bit here, a lot there, that it's, you know, it's the way it's supposed to be. Oh, we're working out pretty good. As you can see, I planned that part pretty good, didn't I? All right. Now, It is indeed the spreading game. That's what I call it. Okay? Pushing your rocks down in the crevices. I tell you what, there is nothing more rewarding, I heard somebody say that today, than unveiling a piece that is made out of resin like this, especially when you have different aspects to it. Now this is very simple compared to some of the ones that I've been doing and that I've seen being done. But I don't want to start off on my channel showing you a video of something, you know, that's high tech, because that's really not what I do. I do nice little projects, and then I build up to some of the more difficult ones. Sorry about that. I can't tell if that's a void or not. So and you know what I like about this too, I don't mind. I haven't changed gloves yet, but I probably should, but I will in a minute when I start. Alright, now I gotta look straight on up. Alright. I can see that some of my stones have risen, and that's where you're gonna have to look down and decide, is that a bubble? Is it a stone? We need to figure this out in 2 seconds because it's drying. Oh my goodness. Like I said, I like to have fun. Alright. Okay. Now I'm going to just put this over there. And I'm going to take these gloves off because they've had plenty of resin. And I'm going to be able to take a couple more gloves. Alright. Now, my lighter is one of those lighters you wonder what the hell did they use that for? And, because it's like a flame. So, I don't know what they use it for. But, I use it for resin and it works great. How's that? Alright. I can see some of these teeny weeny bubbles coming to the top, and believe me, I know from watching other people's videos, it is very hard to see the bubbles popping in the video. Just know that you're going to have bubbles and you are definitely going to want to pop them. Alright, now what I want to do here is I have a few stones I can see that are peeking the way out, or will be, and I want to make sure that they get around. I want to make sure, because I'm limited now in my time. I'm limited. I'm not kidding. So, you know, I don't want to destroy a piece based on the fact that I didn't use my time wisely. So I'm looking all around. I'm looking to make sure my pieces, I mean, it's going to start to set soon. I couldn't believe, I actually did have a problem when I first started using this resin. But I'm going to tell you what, it was user's fault, me, you know, it was my fault. But once I got the hang of it, I realized it was me. I liked it because I like that. I don't want to wait 3 days before I can touch something. So tomorrow this will be all good for us to go over and look at. So, alright. I'll have to wait till tomorrow to see what they look like. Okay, everyone. It is ready to demold the coasters. Oh, I can already see we're going to have some more things to talk about. Alright. Very good, very good. Now what I'm doing is I'm running my fingers across here and holding my breath to make sure I don't see any gaps or voids, and I do not. This is an edge. This edge here is where the resin went over. There is not much or many at all voids in that So we're doing good. Let's see what happened here. Oh yeah, that's good. Now, I am looking specifically for bubbles that popped and created a hole, basically. If you can see that. You see that edge there. We're going to be cutting that off and sanding it down a little bit. And that is pretty much as we're going to need to do here. Wow, they came out really good. Hope you can appreciate that. And these are our molds. They'll need cleaning up. I'm a messy person. So now that we have this, what I want to show you is the next step. Pretty much. Alright. Now I don't always have this much resin overflow, but like I said, doing a video and actually doing the piece is a little bit more difficult than just doing the piece. So I'm cutting off the excess resin, and it usually comes out pretty well. The issue from here on out is going to be just a rough edge. The resin has been cut off of the piece. But this is pretty much perfect in my opinion. There's nothing else. I may not even need to use the UV resin, but this is a rough edge, and most people, they don't like that. Now the way I like to sand these down is by just going over the edge very gently. That's really nice. I'm so glad they came out as good as they did. So there you go. Man, oh man, they look really good. Left like this, they're perfect. There are no bubbles that pop through, and you have to go feel your finger around here like this. And the way I show you in this video to do this, I have found to be the best way for me. I did it a different way, and the way I did it, I had bubbles. I had issues. I sat there and had to sand and replace resin and UV resin. Oh, I want to tell you. So save yourself some problems. Now, what I'm going to do here is put on a teensy, insy, bitsy piece of resin on these little tiny edges here because they're white, and that's the only reason why. I don't want another layer. I just want to put on the most minimum amount of UV resin to just cover up that white mark that I have from sanding it. That's it. That's my only reason for doing this. So if you're a perfectionist like myself, that's what you'll be doing. And look at that. You can't even tell I sanded it. And I'm going to turn on my UV lamp, and I'm going to put it on there for like a couple seconds, and that'll be it. That'll be the end of it. I want to show you what's coming up. I'm not giving up my polymer clay, so do not fret. I'm hoping to incorporate more, of course, but I am going to use, yeah. So there you go. It's completely dry, and I can move on to each and every edge that I have sanded. And as I said, this is very common. And depending on what flaws your piece may or may not have will depend on how much repair or finishing you'll need to do to each item. And in this case, it's extremely minimal. which I'm happy about because of course I did a video on this one. And these are the exact ones that we did last night, which you can't tell that, you know, 24 hours has passed, but anyway, it has. And these are the original pieces. I have no idea what that was about right there, so we'll just cover that up a little bit and see what happens. There we go. I think that was the sanding or the cutting. The blade hit it. The thing about this resin is you can do a lot with it. Okay. Now you have to be careful when you're layering your resin on there that you don't create another layer. You'll be having to do the entire piece again, like just with some layers. So, in other words, we're only touching up, okay? If you start creating a puddle or it starts getting to be an entire layer that is higher than another layer, which is very easy to do, and you're going to cause yourself some more problems. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. And what I'll end up doing, oh, I think I missed this one, I'm sorry, is just putting this in my UV lamp to cure these, and it's that easy. Now, please just remember what it is we did in the beginning, you know, follow the video, because when I was learning, I kept thinking to myself, I had everything ready, and everything was ready, and what I did was I ended up forgetting one of the smallest, it seemed like one of the smallest steps, and created the largest problems. So just pay attention to some of your pieces. Start small because resin is expensive, and move on from there. And what I wanted to show you here is that these rocks came from Joann Fabrics, and they were cheap, and they're little itty bitty stones, jaspers, agates, I don't know, something along that line, but they look pretty dry over here, okay, and look how pretty they are in this setting. Resin does great justice. Really good justice here. So now we're done, but I do want to give you a little tease, and let me move my stuff off to the side here so that we can bring in what we're going to do next, God willing. Now you have to decide for yourself what kinds of molds you want to use, what kind of fillers you want to put in there, all of that kind of stuff. So just use the concept, and the molds really are not that expensive. The resin is expensive. This is a pyramid mold with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So this mold is got 11 molds in one. And I'm going to start off with the smaller size pyramids. These are what I mean by smaller, by the way. I may end up doing them all just to show you. I'll see. We'll see how it goes. But we're going to do a bit of a layer, and I would suggest that you start off small. I may make a little, this came like this, it didn't have anything for stability, but you see how this kind of gathers in, and well, if that happens to you, then your mold is going to offset your resin inside that mold. So I may build myself a holder here, because it didn't come with one. Some do. This one did not. So look forward to that. So anyhow, what I'd like to say is, yes, this is not polymer clay. No, I did not give up on polymer clay. If you have any questions, if I don't have the answers, I'll find them. So this is Jules by Jude. Have a blessed day. If you like this video, press like. If you like it, subscribe and share. Thank you.